here, as I would say the city has been extremely progressive in ushering in companies like Taylor Farms, the new Italian joint, Luigi's. If you haven't been there, it's fantastic. Really a business-friendly and sustainability-friendly city. So thanks for being here, Scott. Let's give them a round of applause. The purpose of these events are to encourage innovation, help with ongoing education for those of us in the field that need the hours, look at new technologies, new ideas, and showcase and lead as the valley that truly is, I think, the most innovative and progressive in agriculture in the world. So today, we're going to get a bit of legal and a bit of new technology. And the legal piece is super important. Certainly as PCAs know, when you're writing an order, you're liable in many ways, shapes, and forms. And whether you're farming, distributing, or selling as a retailer or as a wholesaler, you run a lot of liability. And I think today we're going to learn about some of that liability and how to protect ourselves so that we're ready if and when it comes. So I'm going to welcome up from L&G Law Firm, the leading agricultural law firm in the region, Brad. So come on down.
I don't think I need this. Can you all hear me?
Oh, it's good for the camera.
Oh, the camera, all right.
We are videotaping this, by the way.
I never know how to hold these, whether I should be cool, but I don't think I could never pull off cool even when I was young. And I don't want to be one of those old guys that's just hopelessly uncool. I'm filling in for Jeff Gillis, the managing partner of our firm, who's been the, among others, he was Tri-Cal's attorney for probably much of the last 35 years. And as such, he was prepared to talk about the regulatory morass or the number of regulations one has to go through to keep a product on the market and to be bringing new products onto the market. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, and I get to fill in. So I'm sorry, I'm apologizing in advance for not knowing as much about the regulatory and the getting products to the market. I'm instead going to talk generally about the litigation and the way that the PCA comes up in a food safety setting. And I threw one of these together, and I'm going to be winking over here to move it, but most of it's probably irrelevant, and I apologize. I hope Jeff was happy watching a split screen TV of two soccer matches, or whatever he was doing, because he did fax me that we moved through, which was something kind of hard to do and read a Yahoo app as I was driving from Hollister. In all of the main food safety cases I've been involved with that were national in scope. I mean, this started back in 2002, 2003 with green onions causing Cabet, with any number of romaine cases that came out of this valley, and in the interim before the watershed event that was spinach. You guys, being really the boots on the ground in the fields, as much or more than any pre-harvest auditors, your notes and your recollections became key. And for the most part, none of you kept them. And if you kept them at all, they were in a small spiral notebook that got shoved in your pocket that you may or may not have been able to find, that you maybe turned in. Oh, I know him, partner Aaron Johnson. And they were cryptic notes. I guess they meant something to PCA, but they don't mean much to an attorney. And then 3 or 4 years later, when you're asked to decipher those and recollect what you saw in the field, are you really speaking from recollection of what you saw in the field back in August of 2006 or July 2003, or are you speaking from your experience in having dealt with that field on an ongoing basis or that ranch for years afterwards, and knowing it by whatever challenge it provided? If that's the field where, looking at some of the pictures on the way in, that kept having die-off in this one place, and it took us forever to find out what it was. You know, I will wince in those situations because what you've just done for yourself in a deposition is created a 3-hour experience in what all did you try, what was the result of that, why is that not noted, and would that have any impact on what happened in this matter? And most of those answers are no. But as a PCA, you're out there, you're very familiar with the fields. And in addition to whatever reporting and whatever writings you need to do your job, I would really recommend that you write something if you see it. There may be times when you do the Sergeant Schultz, where you see nothing, but you know you're really not doing your company any favors by seeing nothing. I mean, if you see something and it's noteworthy and correctable, note that you saw it and what you did to correct it, and when. As they're moving through in the legal challenges, or what I kind of have in the body of this PowerPoint, are the new requirements, the regulations the FDA is putting together for the Food Safety Modernization Act. And until I came to work with Jeff 12 years ago, I did mostly medical. I did medical product and medical malpractice defense. And I don't know if you know what your experiences are with hospitals or doctors, but in that, hey Aaron, would you lean up against? No, it's fine. I'm just saying that, you know, the wind usually starts in the afternoon. But, no, what we would always tell nurses is if you don't write it down, you didn't do it. And when you're looking at something, what did you do in the past? If you have not charted it in the medical setting and now in the food safety, and whether you are primary responsible for food safety as a PCA, you're part of an overall team that needs to take probably better notes than you ever wanted to. And you have to keep in mind that if you remember something later and it's not charted, your credibility, if there's a trial, is going to be questioned. And you're going to be made to feel like the other attorney thinks you're lying, even if you're not. And that's going to make you uncomfortable. And an uncomfortable witness looks like a bad witness if you've ever had to serve on a jury. You know, the person that only remembers certain things and doesn't remember others, it looks like they're being evasive, even if they really aren't. They only remember the key points. And so now you're to advance it, but jumping that through. Let's see, where do we go? Let's just go to 5 primary areas. Next one. Yeah. These are what we're working through in the FSMA and how they're going to affect you: preventative controls, inspection and compliance, imported food safety, response, and enhanced partnerships. The key one is the inspection and compliance. When the inspectors are going to be there, they're another layer of inspection. You guys already are dealing with the state and the FDA from a pesticide, and you have a number of investigations that can be done, but you're going to now have another layer. You're going to have the food safety people, and they're trying to train these people now, but they really don't have it. They don't have the staff. But when they're there, they're going to be asking questions that are really in your area, and they're not going to have the expertise of the people you normally deal with. Say what you want about California Department of Pesticides regulation, at least those people have acquired a level of expertise where they don't ask the stupid questions that the food safety people would ask in a salmonella, and they would ask you with a completely straight face, have you ever had monitor lizards or alligators in your fields? And that's a pretty good blank expression, because that's exactly or shot. That may be what happens in Florida along the eastern coast or the Gulf Coast, but I can say pretty confidently that if we were to find an alligator or a monitor lizard in the field, no crops would have been harvested in that field because everyone just would have flown out of that field very quickly. If you're moving down a bed and you saw a crocodile, it would kind of scare your crew. So that level of expertise in the food safety audits and investigators is much lower than what you get with pesticide. I mean, I'm sure you can tell war stories about ignorant questions and stupid notations, but at least the people have a level of expertise. They're not being trained, they're not being shifted around the country based on seniority. Someone who has spent a whole career in tomatoes in Florida gets a promotion out here and is suddenly put in charge of, the Alameda office of FDA. Well, I mean, she's an intelligent woman, but her background and experience is not such that you can call her on the phone and say, why are you spending all your time chasing pigs all over Salinas Ranch? That's really not the issue here. And instead, they had 400 men in Tyvek, or people in Tyvek all over the Salinas area looking for that particular pig. And these were people who were trying to tie cow pies in the field to specific cattle. And I was like, why do you need to do that? If you really want to do that, why don't you just do what the dairy does and swab the cow? And you swab the cow's rear, you're going to see if they're shedding. You don't need to follow around a cow until he poops, or spear, sample the poop, and then note the ear tag. And it's like, what's that? I mean, they found it nearby, that's all they needed to do. Pesticides regulations are much more focused. You move through here, FSMA, they're going to do a lot of inspections. Advance? Do I have to wink? Well, they're going to be inspecting a lot. I mean, they say every 2 to 3 years, but since they don't do it at all now, that's more. What's going to be happening is they're trying to engage the entire audit industry to be their inspectors, and they need work on that issue. I don't know if any of you follow what's going on right now on the cantaloupe case from a few years ago, where they're bringing in Primus as a party, because Primus was in the process of doing a facilities audit when those particular cantaloupes actually went through the facility. Normally you do an audit at the beginning of the year, some months later there's a problem. Question is, were they still complying with the items that were audited last May? Well, in this case, they were there when the actual produce was going through. Because of that linkage in time, the lawsuits to get them dismissed, or the motions, have not been granted, and Primus is still in the lawsuit, and they're fighting hard to get out, because they realize that FSMA is requiring them to do a lot more moving forward, and they don't want to be liable. So that's an issue. I bring it up because, pesticide, how it's maintained, how it's stored, not so much how it's used, is an item that most audits have something of. So if you're a PCA or you're in charge of that department, don't think that they're separate areas. There's going to be some overlap in the FSMA regulations. Couple forward. Go to the one that says first steps. Now this is a FSMA investigation. There's two kinds. I mean, there's the regulatory kind that they're going to be doing, depending on whether you're a high-risk crop. I don't think we are here, but we are. And everyone wants to say, oh my God, remember back in 2006, we've had 19 outbreaks with leafy greens in the past 20 years. You're like, big deal. It was my first reaction. I'm being videoed, so I better not say that. I said, oh my gosh, that's terrible. When you have that many per quarter in beef and chicken, they're just not reported as widely because they are so wouldn't say routine, but that, you know, it's present in certain foods that need to be cooked and will be cooked so that the preparation itself is the kill step. Something like a lettuce or a raw vegetable or fruit, there is no kill step, so when there is pathogen out in the market, you know, the possibility increases. So those are for cause investigations, and this is what the inspector will do. You as a PCA or you're in the management, you'll normally get some notice. We've had cases where they show up, and the first we hear about it or is a call. We've got the FDA here, and they want to look at this. What should I tell them? And in those situations, I would ask them very politely if they can come back and if you can actually meet with your people first. Other times, they're coming, and you hear from your shipper or your customer that they were at their facilities. You gave them your name and that tracing back, the one up, one down, and that they will be contacting you, and they do. I would like to make work for myself and say that if you're in that supervisory role, you call Aaron or myself so that we can help you only have the materials that they are entitled to instead of the whole thing. Even though these people are not like a policeman driving around in a cruiser, they are asserting police powers. And just like if you were pulled over at the road for driving a few miles an hour over the speed limit, they say, do you mind if I look in the trunk? A lot of people say, no, sure, go ahead, and that may or may not be a smart thing to do. Not that you have something to hide, but who knows who borrowed your car? I mean, there have been situations where, how did that get there? Really is the response we have. And when a FDA or a pesticide investigator is doing a for-cause investigation, not just a routine one, they're trying to find something. So it's important that you know what they're entitled to look at and not just say, hey, there's nothing secret here. And I'm not saying that there's anything to hide, but anything taken out of context can be built up into a big problem for your company. So I would recommend that the for-cause investigations in the Department of Pesticide Regulations be handled just like any recall investigation by your company. Not in a casual way. Unless you know, and my operator, stupid guy, just dumped the stuff, did some really clear breach where, you basically figure you're gonna get your administrative fine and move on. But if you've got contaminated product, like later on, I was just looking through some of the news stories, the nopales that were being imported from Mexico that had a pesticide residue that's been banned in this country for 30 years, and that was not just an oops, that's some, that was a systemic application. It wasn't just oh well, this is legal on this product but not on that, and someone didn't clean out the tanks, and now with these parts per billion, where they can find detectable levels of banned product, and they're at such a low level, they're never going to cause any problem, but they're still there. And those come up in not just the regulatory way, they come up when customers do tests, and they're checking for their ingredients, and you get a call from a customer that they found something in whatever it is you sent them, frozen spinach or strawberries or whatever, and you're like, how did that happen? And then when you do your investigation, you find out, and then there's a for-cause investigation. It would be much better if you'd called your attorney, if not us, to do that for-cause investigation. because when I do a for cause, or Aaron does one for a client, for someone like yourself,